The morning began with a sentence that froze the small house into silence. "I don't want to go to school anymore," little Nhi sobbed, burying her face against her foster mother's chest. The once cheerful, bright girl, known for her quick wit and laughter, was trembling, her eyes red, her shoulders hunched as though the weight of the world pressed on her small frame. For a child who had always loved mornings, that sudden refusal struck like lightning. Deep, who had been stirring breakfast, turned at the sound of her daughter's choked cry. Something in her chest tightened. James, sensing the shift, immediately left the table and knelt beside them. The scene was heartbreaking. The girl who once ran joyfully toward her schoolbooks now clung desperately to the woman who had given her a home. Something had broken inside her. The secret behind the tears. At first, Nhi said nothing. Her tiny fists clutched Deep's blouse. Her sobs rose and fell like waves. It was only after James wrapped his arms around her and whispered, "You're safe, sweetheart." "We're here," that the words finally came, halting and heavy. For days, she confessed, a group of older classmates had mocked her. They taunted her for not having real parents, twisting her story into cruel laughter. Each insult had pierced deeper until the thought of returning to school filled her with dread. Deep's face crumpled. Her hands shook as she brushed the hair from Nhi's wet cheeks. She could not bear to imagine the quiet suffering her child had endured, alone and silent. James's jaw tightened. His fists clenched against the table. His eyes darkened with fury, yet behind the anger was something else. Pain. The one place meant to nurture children had instead wounded Nhi. And he could not, would not, let it continue. A promise to protect. James and Deep spoke softly, choosing words like bomb. "You are not less than anyone," Deep whispered. "You are loved, completely and fiercely," James added. Their daughter's shoulders loosened a little under their touch. When they suggested walking her to school together, she nodded reluctantly, her eyes still fixed on the floor. As they left the house, James bent down and whispered into her ear, "Don't worry. Today we go together." "No one will make you cry again." Her small fingers tightened around his hand. For the first time that morning, courage flickered in her eyes. Facing the classroom shadows, the school gates felt different that day. The usual chatter seemed louder, sharper, as though every whisper carried a hidden barb. Nhi's gaze never rose from the ground. Deep walked on one side, James on the other, her two guardians shielding her from invisible arrows. Inside the homeroom, the teacher listened quietly as James and Deep laid out what had happened. Concern crossed her face. She wasted no time in summoning the students responsible. When the group shuffled in, the air grew thick. Some stared at the floor. Others fidgeted. James fixed his gaze on them, his voice calm but edged with steel. "Do you know what your words have done?" NHI cried herself to sleep. This morning, she was too afraid to come to school. The students stayed silent. The weight of his words hung in the room. Deep wrapped her arms protectively around her daughter, her eyes sharp with both grief and resolve. Finally, one boy stepped forward. His apology was clumsy, almost whispered. Still, the gesture cracked the silence. One by one, the others muttered their apologies too. James's reply was simple, almost fatherly. Every word has weight. Remember, you come here to learn and grow, not to tear each other down. The first smile. The atmosphere softened. Nyi's tears slowed. When her classmates bowed their heads, she gave a tiny nod. James ruffled her hair gently. "You were very brave to tell us the truth," he said. "We are proud of you." Outside, as the three of them stepped into the schoolyard, something remarkable happened. NHI smiled. It was small and cautious, but it was a smile nonetheless. Deep exhaled, relief rushing through her. James squeezed both their hands, his heart easing for the first time that morning. That afternoon, as they returned home, the difference was clear. NHI no longer clung to deep with desperation. Her steps were lighter. The silence of the morning had lifted. James set down his bag and sat beside her. "Do you see?" he told her gently. "When you share your fears, they lose their power." "And you are never alone. We are here." Deep hugged her close. "You are not less than anyone." "You are our pride. Promise me, don't ever keep pain to yourself. Tell us, always." Nyi's eyes shone as she whispered back, "Thank you. I will try. I'm not afraid anymore." A night of healing. Dinner that evening was filled with laughter. Nyi's giggles replaced the morning's sobs, echoing against the kitchen walls like music. James sat back quietly, watching. In their joy, he found his own. Later, Deep brewed tea while James carried NHI to the porch. The moon bathed the small yard in silver light. Shadows of 3 figures stretched across the ground. A family bound not by blood alone, but by choice, by love, by resilience. Resting her head against James's shoulder, NHI whispered, "Tomorrow, I will go to school." "I want to be strong like you." James smiled and squeezed her shoulder. "You already are strong." strong enough to face what hurts you. And we will always be here. No one is allowed to hurt you again. Deep joined them, draping a scarf around her daughter's shoulders. Her voice was soft but steady. Remember, no matter what happens, you will always have a home to return to. This place will always love you. NHI laughed, a clear sound that seemed to scatter the last shadows of fear. James looked up at the stars, silently promising that he would do everything to protect that laughter, to make sure Nyi's childhood was filled not with shame, but with joy. Closing reflection. That night, as the family sat together under the moonlight, James understood something he had often overlooked. Family is not only the place we return to. It is the strength that carries us forward, the anchor that allows us to withstand storms. And in that truth, he found peace.